This little thing is gonna blow your mind. What is it? It is diagonal seam tape, and I'm going to show you how this diagonal seam tape that costs less than $10 is going to save you hours and hours of marking. You ready to save some time? Well, let's get started. This diagonal seam tape comes on a 10-yard roll, so there is really tons and tons of it. So you can use it, and when it starts to get a little dirty or icky, just toss it, like peel it back off and toss it, and then grab yourself some more. So let's just start by putting some of the seam tape on, and I'll show you how easy it is to use. So what we're going to do is line up the seam tape with the existing, that red line is going on with the existing seam line. Did I get that? Yep. Okay. So I just lined it up with the existing seam line. And then I'm just going to use some scissors to cut off this end. Now you'll see I covered up my feed dogs and my stitching, my stitch plate, my needle hole, all of that, and I don't want that to be the case. So I'm just going to bring this forward and trim that off. And yes, that's a little bit of waste, but it helps make sure that my line was super straight going all the way down. So now I have this seam tape, this diagonal seam tape, and it's got 3 different lines, and it's super, super simple to use. So I have these 3-inch squares, and let's say that I want to make just a single half square triangle. So let's say my instructions in this case would say draw a diagonal line across the middle of your unit, put the 2 pieces right sides together, and sew on that line. Instead of drawing that line, I'm going to line up this point with my needle, and I'm going to line up the other point down here with my red line. And now I'm going to sew, and as I sew, I'm just going to keep this point right here on that red line. And I've got a perfect seam right down the middle without having to draw a line. So now I can cut this to 1/4 inch, and whether you use a rotary cutter and ruler and cut it exact, or whether you use scissors and eyeball it, is up to you. But this would be my waist, and this would be my open it up. And I've got my perfect little half square triangle ready to go. Now let's say that your instructions say to draw your line, put your 2 pieces right sides together, but for this one you're sewing on either side of that line. Okay, well now we're just going to line up our point with the black line on here. And I'm just keeping my point on the black line. Now I've done one side, and if you like having this side of the black line, you can flip your piece around, or if you wanted to use the other black line, you use this side, but basically you are just keeping the seam you just stitched on one side, the point on the black line, and then you're stitching. Make sure you keep your point lined up with that black line. You can cut away our extra threads, and now whether you use a rotary cutter and ruler or you just kind of eyeball the center and cut with scissors is up to you. But now we have our 2 half square triangles without having to draw our line. So it just speeds up the process. It takes a whole step out on all those projects where you're supposed to draw a line. You no longer have to draw a line. You're following the lines on this seam tape. And when you need to do something where you have to take this out of the way, just peel it off, throw it away. Or if over time you start to get lint underneath the edges, no worries, peel it off, throw it away, and you can use some more. There's 10 yards on this roll, and I am confident that I will lose the roll before I run out. So, yep, and it's really inexpensive. This runs you less than $10 for a whole roll, and obviously that price might go up and it might change based on where you are shopping, but at less than $10 a roll, this is a super, super handy notion to have and will save you so much time with drawing lines. Now there is one drawback, and I do want to share that with you, and that is when you're doing big triangles. So if I have these big squares, and these ones I think I cut at 5 inches, I cannot see the point down at the bottom. So your limitation is going to be how much kind of runway space you have here is the largest that you're going to be able to do this. So with a machine like this, I would not be able to do large 5 or 6 inch triangles. 3 inches was about as much as I could stretch here on this machine. But if you have a machine with an extended table and a longer runway, then yes, you can absolutely do larger squares to make larger triangles. Did you know about this? Let me know in the comments if you already knew about diagonal seam tape or if you are a brand new convert, because I am so excited to use this for so many projects. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and consider hitting that share button and sharing it with some friends as well. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below. Remember, links are in the description box, and make sure you subscribe to this channel. I have so much more content coming your way, and I'll see you right here real soon. Bye, friends.